Local government efficiency, incredibly important. Most regulators are looking at it, but very few understand how to define it properly, and no one's measuring it properly. In this video, I'll tell you what it actually means, how to measure it properly, and then what to do next to actually get something useful out of the whole exercise. So hang on. So what is efficiency? Well, there's actually at least three different types of efficiencies that local government economists routinely talk about. The first one is the one that your regulator is probably talking about, technical efficiency. It's also called X-efficiency sometimes. It's the conversion of inputs into a set of outputs. What are the inputs into the production process of a local government? Well, it's money and it's staff. They're your two inputs. Now, your outputs are thousands and thousands of things. And of course, we can't put all of this into a mathematical equation, so we use what economists call proxies, things that really well stand for something else. And the best proxies for local government is proportion of residential assessments, proportion of rural assessments, proportion of business assessments, length of sealed roads and length of unsealed roads respectively. So that's how we measure technical efficiency, and there's a really complicated mathematical way of doing it, which I'll talk about in the next couple slides. But there's two other really important types of efficiency that often get overlooked. Allocative efficiency, how we get the right goods and services to the right people. That's actually what we do in the political process. That's what the job of the councillors is to know what the people need and to make sure that the right people get the right kind of outputs from local government. And then we have one final type of efficiency called dynamic efficiency. This is how efficiency changes over time. Hopefully it's improving because of new technologies, better knowledge of best practice, people sharing information, videos such as the series that you see on this YouTube channel. Hopefully that's all going to improve efficiency. But as you can see, efficiency is not the simple thing that you're often told it is. It's actually made up of three distinct parts. And what the regulators and state politicians and federal politicians are really talking about is this technical efficiency, conversion of inputs into outputs. Now, don't get me wrong. Local government is not just about efficiency. In fact, it's important, but it's way down the list of things when I think about local government. When I think about local government, the things that are really important are accountability, transparency, responsiveness to need, the democratic process. They all trump efficiency by a long way. But your regulators are interested in efficiency, your community are, and efficiency, if measured properly, can be a really powerful tool for you to understand how your local government is trending over time. Whether you aren't being or need to be more careful with your expenditure, whether you do have the right mix of inputs. Remember, we can mix that money and staff in different quantities. We can go out and contract work, or we can get staff in-house to do work. So efficiency measured really well can give you a lot of management support and let you know whether you are on the right track, particularly if you do it over a long panel of data, go back 10 years or more. Very, very, very helpful management tool. Unfortunately, we don't measure efficiency properly anywhere in Australia. They all do a pretty rubbish job. So in New South Wales, I've got the old Fit for the Future stuff in there because it's infamous for measuring efficiency in a way that didn't actually measure efficiency at all. In New South Wales, it's operation expenditure divided by the per capita population. Now that's wrong on so many levels. First of all, it's not just about the money you put into the council that turns out the outputs. You're totally forgetting about staff. They're really important. But your proxy for output is just population. Well, there's so many problems with that. As you've heard on other videos, the population between census periods is a guesstimate. It can be out from 5 to 15%, so really bad proxy for an output to use. It assumes that local government is mainly providing services to people instead of providing services to property. And if you actually look at the empirical literature, most local government services in Australia, they're directed more closely associated with properties rather than people. If I was in England where local government does education and health and stuff like that, per population might make sense, but in an Australian milieu, it doesn't make sense at all. And then it's assuming that every type of person is receiving similar services. So the person that owns the business is receiving similar services from local government as the person that owns the farm, where you're not going to get bitumen roads, running water, sewer, lots of things. That the person who owns the farm gets similar service to the person that lives right in town in a flat or a high density dwelling. Completely different services for those different categories. That's why we have different categories of taxation, or one reason why we have different categories of taxation in the first place. And what else is missing when we only look at population? Roads. It's the single largest area of expenditure for local government in Australia, typically around a quarter of your budget. You can't just ignore it. So Victoria does it a little bit better. They have operational expenditure per assessment. But, so at least we're directing things with an output that's closely correlated with what local government does. But if we just got per assessment, we're conflating the three distinct types of assessments: farms, businesses, and residents, and they all get different services, as I said. We're still ignoring road, the single largest component of expenditure, about a quarter of your budget. It's just not going to do the job properly. And typically ratios don't do the job properly because they typically have one input, one output. And you know lots more goes into council than that, and lots more comes out of council than that. So we need to have a much more sophisticated measure of efficiency. So how do you measure efficiency properly? Well, there's lots of methods, SFA and regression analysis and whatnot, but the out and out best method is a thing called data envelopment analysis, DEA. This book is written by the father of DEA. Very sophisticated mathematical technique using a thing called linear programming. Lots and lots of calculations. It takes ages to do. With DEA, I can list all the inputs, staff and money, and all the outputs: your number of business assessments, number of residential assessments, number of farm assessments, length of sealed roads and length of unsealed roads. I can mix things with different units, dollars and kilometers. It can all be coped with this extremely sophisticated mathematics. So that's what I would use, and anyone trying to suggest to you that they're measuring efficiency without using this is misleading you. Perhaps they're misleading themselves. But once again, it's like all these things: get it done by an expert, get it done by someone that's published in the scholarly literature using DEA, because lots of people can buy a piece of software, put some numbers randomly in and press the enter key and cross their fingers and hope for the best, and they can give you really rubbish outputs. And if you have rubbish information, you'll make really rubbish decisions. It's as simple as that. Efficiency is important. It's important to you as a management tool. It's important to your regulators, and it's very important to your community. So get it measured properly. Then you've got good information. Then you can make good decisions. What to do with it once you get it is the next question. There's got to be a purpose for this exercise, otherwise it's a waste of time and money. And the purpose then is to work out how you can improve efficiency. What do you need to do that? You need three critical actors. You need your councillors who know the community, who know what they need, to know what they will and will not accept. You need your council executive, your CFO, your GM, people like that know the practicalities of delivering things and where savings might lie and where they might not lie, and the insides and the outs of your accounting books for your council. And the third critical ingredient you just can't miss, and that's someone who is an expert in local government. Someone who has produced research and read the scholarly research and knows precisely how different interventions are going to end up in a fiscal context, and how all these things relate to local government efficiency and how they might be affected by trends in the macro economy. So you need to get these three key peoples: your scholar, your GM and executives, and your councillors. You need to get them all in the room And you need to share those different perspectives, and that's how you'll find really great ways to improve efficiency, which takes pressures off your community in terms of revenue and gives your community better tailors for your community what they actually want and need. So I think sometimes people get caught up in the exercise of measuring efficiency and forget to do something useful with it. So please make sure you get a true expert involved that can prove to you their expertise, not just tell you they're an expert. Get things measured properly, and then do that really transformative change to improve your technical efficiency and use those results to guide your actions. And only a balance is acceptable in enhancing efficiency, like I just talked about, but also in striking that balance between what people really value in local government. Efficiency is important, but it's not everything to me, and I'm an economist. It probably should be everything to me. It's not. I'm also incredibly concerned about accountability, transparency, equity. If you've read my book, Saving Local Government, please do read it if you haven't. I'm a moral philosopher, natural law philosopher. I'm incredibly concerned with the morality of local government, and efficiency is quite a way down that list. There's so many other really important things to look at too. So you've got to get that balance right, and that's why it's discussions between scholars and councillors and the local government executive, and together in a room we can come up with great outcomes for your community. But it takes all of us. You can't have a piece missing and expect, you can't take a rock off that balance beam there and expect the whole thing to be balanced and have a good outcome. It's not going to happen. Same if you don't have those three key players: the scholarly knowledge, the inside counsel from an executive perspective, and the inside counsel from a councillor community orientated perspective. We've got to all get together and contribute to get good outcomes. So I hope that information was helpful. I hope you now understand why efficiency is important to measure, why it's absolutely critical that you get it measured properly, because otherwise you're going to get bad information. It's going to lead you astray and give you really bad decisions. And you get it measured properly by someone that knows what they're doing and doesn't just say, I know what I'm doing, but can prove it with a scholarly record that has gone through a review process, that's been interrogated by experts in the world that you know you can trust. It's such an important thing to get this done properly. I hope this has helped. Please subscribe, please flick this video to others, and please give me the thumbs up and help me to help others. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.